They say love isn't always a fairy tale. Sometimes it's a battle, not against each other, but against the world that refuses to let you be together. And for Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun, this couldn't be more true. From the outside, it seemed impossible. Two of Korea's biggest stars, both adored by millions, both bound by contracts, agencies, and expectations. Every move they made, every glance they shared, was scrutinized under a magnifying glass. But behind closed doors, their hearts spoke a different truth. It all began on set. Their chemistry was undeniable, not just the scripted kind, but the raw, unfiltered connection that no camera could truly capture. Between takes, they would share quiet conversations, soft smiles, and those fleeting moments where time seemed to stand still. The staff noticed, fans noticed, and so did the people who wished to keep them apart. Music shifts to a slower, more emotional tone. Rumors began swirling. At first, they laughed them off. After all, the entertainment industry thrives on speculation. But soon, it became more than just whispers. There were meetings, closed-door discussions, warnings disguised as professional advice. It's better for your careers if you keep your distance. Fans might react negatively. We can't risk any scandals right now. Words meant to protect them. But in truth, they were chains. Lee Min-ho, ever the gentleman, tried to shield Kim Go-eun from the worst of it. But she wasn't fragile. She wasn't someone who needed saving. She was strong, and she loved fiercely. "If we have to hide," she told him one night, "then we'll hide. But I'm not letting them decide my heart for me." So they became experts at secrecy. Private dinners in quiet corners of Seoul. Messages sent on apps no one else knew about. A shared language in glances across a crowded room. Every stolen moment became a victory. Music builds slightly with tension, but the pressure didn't stop. An unflattering photo, a headline taken out of context. Suddenly, both their agencies were back at their doors. This time, the words were sharper. Threats of contract penalties, warnings of lost endorsements, the constant reminder that love wasn't part of the script. And yet, love doesn't care for scripts. One winter night, at a small cafe tucked away from the city lights, Lee Min-ho looked at Kim Go-eun and simply said, "I'm done hiding." Her eyes welled up, not from fear, but from the relief of knowing they were in this together. From that night on, they stopped caring who saw them. A hand placed gently on hers at a public event. A smile that lingered a little too long in interviews. The world began to speculate again, but this time they didn't bother denying it. Music swells, hopeful and triumphant. And then came the turning point, an award ceremony, both of them in attendance. The cameras caught a moment, just seconds long, but it told a story no headline could twist. As Kim Go-eun walked on stage to accept her award, Lee Min-ho stood. He didn't just clap. He looked at her as if she was the only person in the room. And in that gaze, the world saw it. The love they had tried so hard to hide. It was no longer just speculation. It was undeniable. Of course, the backlash came. Critics called it unprofessional. Some fans felt betrayed. The agencies scrambled for damage control. But there were also thousands, millions, who rallied behind them. Messages poured in from all over the world. Don't let them break you apart. Real love is worth fighting for. We support you. And so, they kept going. They learned to navigate the storms together. When one was tired, the other carried the weight. When one was hurt, the other became the shield. It wasn't always easy. There were days they questioned if it was worth it. But then, one smile, one touch, one shared laugh. And they knew they were each other's choice. Every single day. Years from now, maybe the industry will tell their story differently. Maybe it will be remembered as a scandal, or maybe as one of the greatest love stories in Korean entertainment. But for Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun, it's not about the headlines. It's about the nights they spent dreaming together. The mornings they woke up knowing they had survived another day side by side. Music softens, gentle piano. Love is not always grand gestures or dramatic declarations. Sometimes, it's simply refusing to let go. And in a world that tried to keep them apart, Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun held on, because some love stories are worth defying the odds. In every stolen glance, every shared laugh that lingered a moment too long, they found their way back to each other. It was as if the universe had decided, these two belong together. The world outside could keep talking. The agencies could keep pretending they were nothing more than co-stars. But their hearts had already made the choice. One late evening, after a long day of filming, the crew started packing up. Most people left quickly, eager to get home. But Lee Min-ho stayed behind, pretending to check his script. Kim Go-eun lingered too, saying she needed to review a scene for tomorrow. The truth, they both just wanted a few minutes. Minutes without cameras, without eyes watching, without the weight of expectations. They sat on the edge of the set, their shoulders brushing ever so slightly. They didn't need to talk much. Sometimes silence felt like the safest place in the world. And then Lee Min-ho said quietly, "Do you ever think maybe this is worth fighting for?" Kim Go-eun looked at him, the studio lights casting a soft glow on her face. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Every day. But fighting for it meant taking risks. Rumors were already swirling. A blurry photo here, an out-of-context clip there, paparazzi lurking in the corners, waiting for the moment they slipped. And yet, it wasn't the public they feared most. It was the people closest to them, the ones with the power to pull them apart. There was one night in particular, an industry event in Seoul. They were both invited, but not together. They sat at opposite ends of the hall, surrounded by people, and yet their eyes kept finding each other. It was a game of silent conversation, a raised eyebrow here, a small smile there, 1,000 words exchanged without saying a thing. Halfway through the evening, Lee Min-ho got up to leave. It wasn't unusual. He had an early call the next morning, but what no one knew was that he left not to go home, but to meet Kim Go-eun in a quiet cafe on the other side of the city, a place with dim lights and a discreet entrance, a place where they could simply be. They talked for hours that night, not about work, not about the pressure they were under, just about life, the kind of dreams they had, the kind of future they wanted. By the time they left, the streets were empty, and the first hint of dawn was painting the sky. Lee Min-ho walked her to her car, and before she got in, he said, "No matter what happens, I want you to know, I'm not going anywhere." Those words became a promise, a quiet vow between them, and in the weeks that followed, they kept finding ways to keep that promise, through text messages that arrived exactly when the other needed them, through small gestures on set that only they understood, through the way they defended each other in interviews without ever mentioning names. The industry can be a cold place, but when you have someone willing to stand by you, to choose you, even when it's inconvenient, it changes everything. Lee Min-ho and Kim Go-eun knew they couldn't erase the challenges. They couldn't stop people from talking, but they could hold on to each other, and somehow that made it all worth it. And so, in the face of contracts, schedules, and disapproval, they stayed, they fought, they loved. Because sometimes love isn't about grand gestures or perfect timing. It's about showing up, again and again,